already doing, or it may give you some ideas on what you can add to what you already do that's working for you. And if you don't have anything that's working for you, feel free to use whatever you like out of this. We're going to go through some things today. A lot of this is documented in sheets, and I will provide those to Art Manville, and he will have them for download along with the archive of this. I'm going to go kind of fast, and so a lot of this, the numbers and things, you may not necessarily get, but it'll be archived so you can listen to it again. I just want to go through it in a fairly quick format. So that's kind of the plan. Along with that, I wanted to encourage you to do something that I call listen as a teacher, not a student. Listen to what we're going to go through as in that you are going to be teaching it. And listen, and I'm going to talk to you as if I'm just having a conversation with one person. And for the sake of our conversation today, your name is Joe because Joe started this whole thing as in Joe Morton, so a perfect name to go with. And what we're going to do is, this is a situation where someone would be ready to get started in this business. Now, in my group, we have a lot of people who drink the juice for a while, and then at some point in the future, after they've experienced the product, decide to participate in the business side, or some people are ready, and that's their intention from day one. Whenever someone crosses the line into having an interest in pursuing this as a business, then we need to do something where I refer to as launching them in the business, because I want to give the picture of speed of launch, of getting it going, kind of a grand opening and ribbon cutting kind of ceremony in their mind for themselves. Part of the issue with a business like ours is not only do we not have a large investment to get started, which can help people not necessarily see it as a high-end business, but we also don't have a lot of fanfare about when someone gets started. So this is kind of a mental line in the sand of, okay, now we're in business mode that we do with people. So as we go through in Zango, and this is a pretty generic thing, but there's business building steps, there's things we all have to do. And a core thing that we want to be reinforcing to people and telling people, because it gives them the peace of mind and puts them in the right perspective of what we're doing, is this isn't about convincing anyone other than yourself. Okay, on the business side of this thing, it's not about convincing people, because a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still, right? So that's one of the things that we want to watch out for, that we're not pursuing it from that angle, and that isn't comfortable for most people to try to convince people against something that they don't want to do. So don't sell, share, and sort, okay? And we'll refer back to that as we go through this. But here's really what we do, and this is a business. We expose people. This is a series of multiple exposures business, right? And along with that, what they're ended up doing is they're getting educated. Those of us who've been around Zango for a while absolutely know that if everyone really understood what you knew, if you could stick a memory stick into your brain and download what you know about this, and then just stick that in someone else's brain, obviously they would understand it. So it's a process of education, helping them understand what they don't currently understand and make a decision, based on that. And it's very rarely is it a single exposure. Sometimes it is, but oftentimes it's a multiple exposure business. And then we follow up, and there's different forms and different styles, and certainly some people are far better than others at that. Terry Manville often trains. She's kind of the queen of follow-up, and she's got some great trainings on that we've all heard. And then we sponsor them. And sponsor them there's a difference between signing someone up and sponsoring them, right? Signing someone up is fairly irrelevant. Sponsoring them, see, by definition, when I look at sponsoring someone, I am volunteering my time to go to work for them, because that's how success will happen, right, is working as a team. So therefore, I get to choose who I want to sponsor. You don't get to choose who you get to work with on Monday, right, if you still have a 9 to 5 or whatever. 9 to 5, that's almost funny in today's world, right? If you're still putting in your 50 to 60 to 70 hours a week on a job, there's probably some people there you don't necessarily enjoy. Well, don't poison your business with that, right? Pick the people, because you're going to work closely with them. And then we launch people. We get them started, okay? We get them off and running in their business, and then we just rinse and repeat, right? We just keep doing the same thing. That's really as simple as this business is. So when we look at a launch session, and it's also referred to as a getting started session. Here's a few of the goals. It's not exclusive to this, but here's some of the goals I look at when I want to get someone started. I want to accomplish fairly early on, and I want to reinforce throughout our relationship as we're getting going. But the sooner people can get their mind in the right frame of mind of what we're about to do and why we're about to do it, the way we're going to do it, the more duplicatable it will be, the more coachable they will be, because they'll understand why you're asking to do the things the way you're asking them to do them. It's important to help people understand the money potential, right? And I am not a numbers person. I never did a training in my group on the compensation plan until after I was 100K. And part of that is I never really understood how to explain it in a way that excited me, much less excited anyone else. And what you're going to see today is kind of an outgrowth of that, of me searching for a way to make the money kind of come alive to someone and have it matter to them. I call it making the money matter, because staring at the compensation plan, to me, I just don't see numbers that well. It never really jumped out at me, never did anything for me, so therefore I just avoided the subject. And in today's economy, obviously talking about the business potential and the ability to make money, whether it's starting with getting your product for free, obviously, but paying for gas and expenses and the rising cost of living and those things, and then on from there upwards into the more exciting types of money. But it's important to help people see the money potential, help people set some goals and expectations. I don't think, you're rarely going to come across someone who, out of the gate, really knows what some good expectations and goals are for their business. Okay, they tend to set them too high, too low, a little too vague. That's not a skill that's typically been taught to most people. So this is a process where you can interact with them and help them get something that's A, realistic, but B, motivating, and that's something they can believe inside. It doesn't really matter what the goal is as much as it is, do you believe in your heart that that's a goal, A, that it matters to you, it's motivating to you, and that you see that it's not so far out of reach that you can't get it, so you're willing to do the work and go through the steps to go there. And I want to, it's important to amplify the importance of duplication. Duplication. This is a duplication business. You can't do it on your own. It's impossible to do it on your own. You have to do it with a team. And in order for it to work correctly, it's going to need to be copied in some sort of a cookie-cutter process, so to speak. And this will help them see the importance of that. Another thing that people tend to do is Bob Schmidt always taught, one of the things, the keys is spending the right amount of time with the right people. People tend to spend too much time with the wrong people and not enough time with the right people. And this process you're going to see today helps them get a visual that makes them realize why that's so important to learn that step. And a lot of these things a new person does not know, right? And even if you go through it, they're not going to totally catch it. So the point of it is that they work hand in hand with someone who does have a handle on this, and that they're not doing it alone. And typically, and as a 200K, I can speak from my group, and I don't think, as I talk to other leaders, I think we all probably feel fairly similar, is that we're highly underutilized and at premier or above level. People are not utilizing us the way they could or should, and that starts even in 5K and 20K level. People tend to duplicate things as they grow, and so getting people to lean on their upline and use the horsepower that their upline has is necessary in this type of training, because they're not going to know how to go out and do this on their own. And that's a good thing, is you don't want them trying to do it on their own. So you have to set their mind in a place where you just set them on a course where they have to use you. And then in addition to that, it's great to have new distributors have some posture. Because it insulates them from the bumps in the road a little bit, and it helps them have the right music. Having the certain words is what people typically are looking for. Like, what do I say to this, and what do I say when they say that? And that's fine, and that's great, but ultimately most of communication is nonverbal, and having the music behind your words is what people hear. They hear the beat, they don't hear the lyrics. So you have to have something inside you, and it's easy after you've reached success and after time has gone on to have the right music. The problem is, how do you get someone in the first few weeks and first few months to get the right music? Well, some of that just has to come from the course of time and getting some points on the board and those types of things. But obviously, the sooner we can help them get their game face on, the better off they'll be, because then the activities they do will have greater results. So I'm showing you a checklist that we use on our team. It's small. It's not necessarily important what our checklist is. You probably have one that you could use from your upline, or one that you're already using that you like, or you can develop your own if you think about it. But it's important to give people kind of a track to run on. It gives them peace of mind, knowing that you know what you're doing, that your team knows what they're doing, and then they're not going to have to make this up as they go along. Most people may not express that's a concern or a fear, but they're thinking it. They don't want to go it alone. They know, necessarily that success isn't automatic in anything in life. And they want to know, am I going to have to spend a lot of time and energy and bump my head on the wall here, or do you have a track to run on? So there's some things that you can do with them, and it gives them peace of mind to sit down and go through a checklist. And you obviously don't do the entire checklist on the spot, but it lets them know that there's a process here. We're moving ahead. We're taking it step by step, and I'm with you. I'm not going to leave you on your own. This isn't a slap on the back, go get them, Tiger, kind of experience, and that's what they're possibly concerned about. Now, when we're doing this process, what we're going to go through today with someone, hopefully they have come to the table and already spent some time, going through a memory jogger list, creating some lists, getting some initial people on paper. You want to encourage people that are going after this as a business is to not do too much contacting until they get some coaching. Don't go out there and just go willy-nilly around and start doing some things. Work with people hand in hand. Don't make a move unless we talk about it first, kind of thing, if you're really into a heavy business building conversation and coaching with someone. So hopefully they've done some of this and they kind of get their mind around some of the people, and some of that is beneficial if you can help people take them through a list. Ideally, the ideal situation is that you sit with them on the phone or in person and help them walk through a list and ask them questions and get them to think. And heck, there's people now that are coming to mind that I didn't think hard enough or long enough, or from a different angle that I'm thinking about now, 3.5 years later, that like, man, why didn't I call this person a couple of years ago? But I hadn't dug deep enough on my list. And the point of that isn't necessarily that if they got 250 names on a list of paper, if you do this right, you'll probably never get through them. Okay, I think my initial list, I had 189 names. I probably still haven't talked to at least half of them, probably more. If you do this right and you do the right things with the right kind of people, you'll never even need to get to that list. But what it does is it's the start of giving you some posture on the inside, because you realize, okay, if 3 people, don't like what I'm offering, hey, I still got 195 more to go, or whatever. So that's part of that memory jogger list. And then another thing that I like to tell people, and I often refer to this even in the prospecting and explaining to them what this is as a business for them to decide if they can do it. I don't have any time, I don't have any money. 2 biggest things people throw up as excusing themselves from doing something like this. Well, the money thing, that's a whole other subject, but the time thing, and this is what I'll say, this is a business, if done correctly, is done in 5-minute chunks. Because it is. What could you do and sit down for 8, 10, 12 hours straight and do this business? I can't imagine what it would be. I do this full time, which to me means this, I don't do anything else. But it's certainly not a full-time time commitment necessarily, especially not when you're new. So people need to understand that this is something that's done in little increments of time while you're living your life. This isn't something that's a separate little block in your life necessarily. And this helps them know, because you need to track what's going on, and people can lose track of what they started. They start some fires and they forget to follow up. So we introduce this as a way for them to get their head in the game about this is going to be about starting some little things, doing some little follow-ups, some phone calls, some emails, some 3-way calls, and it's a series of steps. This isn't a one-time event. And so these checklists like this are nice to help people, get their head moving in that direction in their mind. So here's the 3 questions that I think are critical for someone, first of all, to get started at all in your business, in their business. and it's critical that they remain answered for them as they're building it. Okay, because at some point in the future, if they in their heart decide this doesn't work, or that they can't do it, or that it's not worth it, they're done, right? They can mentally check out and leave, or completely quit, or whatever. So they have to answer these questions at some point to get started, and then how well we keep them answered for them is going to determine the speed at which they proceed, or if they proceed at all. So, the questions are fairly straightforward. So as we're going to go through this today, I think what you're going to find is this is going to help, in a way, answer, does it work, can I do it, and is it worth it from the business standpoint. Now, people have to, they'll have to answer the question, does it work, about the product as well, but that's a whole other subject. So we actually have a business that people do make money, and make very serious money when people take it seriously as a business and do the right things. But people, I find, when they look at these kinds of numbers, they have a hard time really grasping how you go from the top of that chart down to the numbers in the second half, of the chart. And they really don't. If you got a big thinker, they don't have a problem with that. If you have someone who's made significant money before, they don't have a problem jumping to the second half of that list. But most people have a little bit of a, to get beyond that $20,000 amount into the Premier. They hope it's true. They really like the idea of that kind of money, but they're really not quite sure how that could ever happen. And so, not that everyone has to go for that, but obviously what you're looking for is 3 or 4 or 5 key people that do want to proceed into the bottom half of that list, right? So that, looking at a chart like that, never did a whole lot for me outside of let me know that the numbers are there. Never really gave me a vision for how I could get there, or what to do about it, or that is necessarily could happen for me. But so here's what I want to go through with you. I call it my business launch worksheet, and partly what it does is it helps talk a little bit about like what 1K, 5K is, but mainly, more importantly, what that means. I think oftentimes, does anyone really want to be a 5K? No. But does someone want to make $700 a month? Yes. That's what they're trying to do. And it also helps people not necessarily get so caught up in the title as it is the process of getting there, and what comes of that, will become clear for them while doing this. So this is a business of momentum. Momentum is key in this, and once you have momentum, you certainly don't want to lose it. And the faster you can get into momentum, the better off you'll be, because no one wants to jump off a fast-moving train, right? Speed and success and things that are happening is very attractive, and we're about to go into, Zango's about ready to shift into a higher gear, right? I mean, the convention's called Overdrive. I think it's kind of a cool way of explaining the next wave in the company. So wave 2 is about ready to hit in less than 90 days or so. And for the new people coming in, they'll certainly feel it, that it's out there. But for those of you who've been around this for a while, and it's all relative, no one's business ever grows as fast as they want. But let me give you a little encouragement in this. Is probably one of the things you should do between now and convention and the launch of Glimpse is we all should probably do some internal work and do a little a session with ourselves where we realize that certainly, convince yourself that certainly things could happen faster, things could happen better, because here's what's different. You're smarter, you know what you're doing more, you have more experience under your belt, the company's better, the tools are better, the systems are better, your upline is better, your team is better, your team is bigger. There's a lot of things that you can look at, so that when you approach the next year or two of Zango, it doesn't have to at all look and feel like the last year or two of Zango. If you don't like what happened the last 2 years, because we're all dissatisfied, and a little dose of dissatisfaction is a good thing because it's motivating. But we can all make it go faster, make it go, have it more fun, have it more profitability, to your business. All those things can happen because the new age is upon us, right? I mean, hey, the first age certainly was pretty awesome. I mean, Zango's broken every record in the book. But what's about to come, is going to make it look, like we didn't hardly even get out of the gate. But make sure that happens for you, and that's something that you probably should settle inside yourself now, between now and, when the flag drops in November with Glimpse. And certainly don't be standing flat-footed in November, with just getting excited about a convention. You probably want to be well underway with that. So let me take you through this. So I'm going to refer to you as Joe, and this is a one-on-one conversation with you and me. And I'm taking you through this worksheet either on the phone or in person. I'll say, Joe, one of the things we really want to do here is establish momentum, and I want to give you some ideas of some goals we can shoot for, some things we can work together to achieve. The first position you're going to want to achieve is called 1K. And in its simplest form, what that really is that you bring in at least 3 people that you want to work with. You sponsor 3 people, and you have a total of $1,000 in volume on a monthly basis. So that's called 1K, and our momentum target for that we want to set here that I use in this example is 2 weeks. So we're sitting down at your launch date. Joe, why don't we write in, what's the date 2 weeks from now? And you'd write that in. And now, obviously, Joe, we don't do a lot of, the average income for 1Ks in our company is actually $212. So we're not, going out and buying a dream home at this point, but it certainly is nice that you could be at, covering the cost of some product. And, we're getting into the profitability zone instead of putting money out of your pocket. And it starts to get a little exciting, but we're just getting started. So you could write in there, what that $212 would mean to you as an example. And again, that's the average. People make more, people make less, but that's real life average in a company. Now, 5K is that basically we work with the 1K, the 3 people you bring in to get them to a 1K status each, and you have a total of $5,000 a month in total orders going on in your business. And what we want to shoot for there, what's a fun target to go for is 8 weeks, because that's really establishing momentum. It certainly won't happen on its own, but it certainly does happen in the company. And I'd like to go for it with you. And you're saying the timing is right. Let's do this thing. So let's work on that. So let's set a date for 8 weeks out from today. And our goal is to have identified some people who want to run with you into that 1K zone. And we'll get some things going, and then we're going to look at a 5K, in a matter of weeks, a few months out. So the nice thing about that, Joe, is that at the 5K level, what we're looking at across the board in the company, you're looking at approximately $700 a month in income, and starting to get a little more exciting, a little more fun at that level. So, Joe, why don't you write in there, what would, on top of extra, right? This is extra income on top of your job income. What would that $700 a month mean to you? What would that do for you? And you can write it in the blank there. So, Joe, the next position we're going to work on is 20K. And what 20K is that you have 3 builders that you're working with that follow the pattern here, and they go 5K, okay, a minimum of 3, and you have a total of $20,000 in orders. Okay, so that's what we're looking at with 20K, and we can get into more of the details of that later. I just want to give you the snapshot of what these levels mean and how fast we, can look at going for it. You said the timing is right, and you really want to build this seriously. So let's go, 20K. We're gonna go 20 weeks. Now, certainly these, aren't hit in stone. It's not that everyone has to hit these levels at a certain pace, but these are, this would be establishing momentum. This would be getting you off to a really good start in your business, and we'd be having a lot of fun. So 20 weeks out from today, Joe, is approximately whatever the date would be. And so, Joe, what we're talking about in the company with 20K is an extra $3,000 a month on top of what you already do, because this would be a part-time venture, and, it would be fun, and it would be intense, and it would be starting to get to be, a pretty great thing at this point. But, Joe, what would $3,000 a month do, in your household budget? What would that, at the end of every month, if there was an extra $3,000 going into the checkbook, what would that mean for you guys? And feel free to write something in there, whatever, your reason for doing this is. Now we can start to accomplish some things with that kind of money. Now, Joe, Premier is our next spot. in the company, and this is where it gets fun. Not only do you get to enjoy a higher level of income typically, but the company will also send you on an all expenses paid trip for 2 to Thailand. Very exotic, very awesome, and it's one of those trips of a lifetime kind of thing, and it's completely paid for when you hit that level. And I can show you some pictures of that later and some videos of people who've been there, and you can kind of get your thoughts going in that direction. So what Premier means, Joe, is that 2 of your 5Ks make it to 20K, and you have a total of $50,000 volume. Okay, basically that's roughly the idea for now. And so, your 20Ks obviously are doing their business for their reason, and they're building it how they want to build it. And, if you got some people who really want to go for it with you, that Premier in a year certainly happens in the company. Well, the reason why we might want to be excited about that is the average Premier in our company makes $10,000 a month. Okay, so Joe, if you're still part-time at this point and we're at $10,000 a month, what would that be like for you? And feel free to write some of that in there. So those are some ideas, Joe, that we can be looking at. We can adjust it on the fly as we go, and some of that's going to be dependent upon what kind of players we have on the field when we play the game. Okay, and sometimes the right players come on the field right away, and that's why I want to help you and make sure we stack the deck in your favor as best we can. So I want to work with you closely and all the other people on our support team that we can help you with to get the right players in the team. And I'll show you why that's going to matter here in a minute. Because what you need to see here is the power of leverage. So I'll take you through a little worksheet here, but what we're looking for to get the power of leverage on your side is what we call builders. There's builders, and then there's drinkers or product users or people like that. And sometimes product people can turn into builders down the road, and sometimes they're not quite sure what they are in the beginning, and that'll come around. But I want to help you define what a builder is, okay, so we know what we're talking about when I'm referring to these builders. Number one is that it's someone who sees the opportunity. They see the opportunity that's here, they get it, it clicks, all those types of things. When you crossed the line, Joe, when you had at some point, the aha moment that this Zango was what you were looking for, and they have to see that as well. Number two is they have to have a strong reason, okay? You can have a lot of potential and a lot of people who could, but not all will. Certainly anyone can, but not all do it. And usually that strong reason to want to do this for wherever that is, and it's different for everyone, Joe. And we've talked a little bit about what your reason may be, moving ahead, and that can shift and change as we go and expand the things as we go in this process. But 3 is coachable, because Joe, I know you've had success in real estate, but this isn't real estate. This is a different ball game. This is an industry. This is a different game, and there's rules to this game that make it work. And that's what we're going to be learning and teaching as we go. And a lot of this is learning on the job, and you'll pick it up as we go. And number 4 is willing to work, right? This, like anything that's legitimate and real, is going to require some work, but it's work that's going to be worth it. And as you can see by the numbers, it's very rewarding kind of work, and it's nice to be working for yourself instead of someone else in the end. And then number 5, they'll find at least 3 builders, MBN, 2-case ADP. Okay, so that's really what we're looking for in a builder as kind of our basic minimal requirements for us to consider them a builder in this equation, what we're about to go through. So I'll back up for a second here, Joe, and what we're going to do is let's just assume at this point a couple things are going to happen. We're going to work together, and for this example, what we're doing here is we're saying we're going to get you 3 drinkers and 3 builders, okay? And because the drinkers and product users will come as they come, right? You're going to find those are everywhere, because people are, in need and or desiring a product like we have with Zango Juice, and certainly that won't be hard for us to identify those people. But what we're really looking for in this example is the builders. So let's just assume you have some product users, and that's not what we're putting in here, but we're finding your builders, and we have your 3 builders. And by our formula here, by our definition, those 3 builders are each going to find their 3 drinkers, right? And we get paid on volume, right? We don't get paid by title. We get paid by volume of sales. And so what we're looking at, the drinkers and the product users certainly are the majority of where volume comes from. oftentimes the people who just really love what we have as a product, and that's what makes our business so exciting. Is that's just the way this unfolds is a high value product that people really enjoy. So you have your 3 builders, each find their 3 drinkers. Now you can see obviously that is 9 total drinkers at that point from that part of the equation. But now because they're builders, right, and builders are going to find by definition at least 3 and more. They'll find more along the way, and they'll find more drinkers along the way, but we're just going with an example so you can kind of see how this flows. 3 builders times 3 builders is 9 total builders, right? And they each find their own 3 drinkers, so we have 27 drinkers. And now you can kind of see the math where this is going. So those 9 builders each find their 3 builders each. That's 27 builders. Each finding 3 drinkers is 81 drinkers. So this is starts to multiply. Nothing ever goes in a lockstep formula like this, but it gives you an idea of where these numbers come from and where the money actually gets created, because it's not all about you, what you do. It's about what you start correctly is how this is going to determine your income, and you'll see that as we go. So if we add this up, 27 builders plus 9 builders plus 3, if you go right above there, that's 39, and then you, and as a builder, is 40 builders, each ordering 2 cases. That's 80 builder cases. Okay, Joe? So 80 builder cases there, and if we go over to the drinkers, let's just assume there's just one person in the family using the juice, and they're using it for prevention or for health concerns or whatever reason they want it, and they're just ordering 1 case, just to make the math real simple here. So 81 drinkers plus 27 drinkers plus 9 drinkers plus the 3 drinkers you found, right? So that's 120 drinkers, each ordering 1 case is 120 drinker cases. Well, that's 80 plus 120 is 200 cases, Joe. And just to give you an idea, the easiest way just to explain it in a snapshot is we get paid approximately $5 per case that's sold in our group and consumed. Okay, so 200 cases times $5 per case is we're looking at $1,000 passive income monthly. Well, let's back up here for a minute, Joe. What your part in this equation so far was we worked together and we identified 3 people who were builders and 3 people who were drinkers, right? And that's all we've done so far. Now, certainly you could find more than 3 and builders or 3 drinkers, and so could everyone else on your list, but that's how exciting this is. That's the power of a business model like this, and that's the power of the leverage of other people's time, energy, and talents, and the leverage of their list of people who don't even know who they are, right? Because everyone has people they know that are in need of a business or in need of a product, and we'll get to them and we'll help them through this process. So you can kind of get an idea how that flows. And now you're at $1,000 per month in this example of passive income. Starting to get interesting. So let's just put this to a little chart here we're going to work with that'll help us get a little more visual about this thing. So, Joe, what we did is we're showing sponsorship, and you sponsored Tanya, John, and Connie in this example. Okay, and what we did, see how this is going to work and where this really starts to have magic to it is that we do something called recruiting up. Okay, and here's a worksheet that we're using, and we call it the Mastermind Worksheet, and drafting the franchise players for your championship team. Ultimately, here's what you want to be thinking about for this mastermind is one of the ways that it's often phrased is if you were betting $10,000 of your own money on who would best succeed with you in this business, who would those people be, Joe? And another way to think of it maybe is if Zango only ever allowed you to sign up 10 people, and that was the limit, who would you want to be in that list of 10 that were allowed to be, your key people? And that was the one shot you had is those 10. Who would those people be? Now, Joe, I know, ultimately these people are probably, if you want to consider yourself like a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10, however you want to think of that, what you're probably looking for here is people that are like 6s and 7s and 8s, okay, or at least a 5 minimum, but preferably maybe a notch or 2 up. And whether you look at connections, credibility, business savvy, past experience or success, or communication ability or likability, or ultimately you got to be someone you want to work with and that possesses some of those qualities, good work ethic and integrity and things like that we're looking for. Who would those kind of people be? And Joe, your job isn't to get them in your business. Okay, that's our job as your team support. because we have the know-how, the confidence, and the horsepower to help you get them in your business. What we're asking for you to do, Joe, at this point is just let us know who are they so we can strategize and create a plan that we can best stack the deck in our favor to attract them and see, if they're who we're looking for and the kind of people we're looking for. So that's who we want to do. And the importance of that recruiting up or recruiting someone that, is at your peer level or slightly above will become very apparent here. And ultimately, what people do if we don't talk about this as a recruiting up is the natural inclination for people is to recruit people who are slightly at their level or slightly down because it's easier and they can do it on their own and they don't have to, get real strategic about it. It's just some of the easy ones. Some people you can just call and say, hey, and that's fine, and we can bring those kind of people in. We certainly don't want to count anyone out, but ultimately where you really win is if you get in a few people who are highly capable of doing this, then the timing is right and they want to go for it and they're attracted to what we have. So let's say we do that and we have Tanya, John, and Connie, and we take them through this process, right? We go through your list and they're in the the top 10 people that you were looking at, and they say, yes, I'm in. I get it. I'm all aboard. Let's go for it. Well, we do this same process with them, Joe, and this is how you're going to learn how to take people through this process. You're going to observe me as I take their people through this process, and that's how you're going to learn it. This is on-the-job training at its best. Ultimately, if we do this right. So Tanya's got some people that she considered, on her top 10 list, Lori, Melissa, Steve, and John has, Tom, Julie, Mary, as you can see, and Connie. He's got Raja, David, and Tony. Well, we look at that list to think of what starts to happening now. Let's think of John, and you brought in John, and he's, had some notches in his belt of some success, and you would enjoy working with him, and, we already discussed what his potential is. Now, John did some level of recruiting up, right, himself. So his list is people that he considered at least as good as him or better. And now you can see the power that's starting to happen as this grows in depth. We're talking of increasing credibility, increasing business savvy, increasing know-how, connections, et cetera, et cetera. And that's where the power of the team comes into effect, where this gets very exciting. So as this continues, right, and certainly and no one's limited to 3. That's just the minimum requirements to get the compensation plan to come alive. So we'll just start with that. And obviously people, if 3 is good, 4 and 5 would be better, but we have to have at least 3. So let's just take this example of Tom here. Tom brings in Paul and Louise and Rich. And again, Tom, those are people he considers at least at his level or better, right? So now, wow, this is getting interesting. But now watch what happens. So you've got 1, 2, 3 generations, right? And that's what we talked about in our worksheet back there, which was, 3 by 3 by 3, right? And that's what's in this diagram. But now where the magic kicks in is when you cross that line and that Paul and Louise and Rich start building a list and start going after it, right? And this is where it really gets fun. Because now the law of numbers starts applying, and by definition it starts to get a lot bigger because it spreads out. So let's go back to our scenario here. Here's where we ended it, right? 3 by 3 by 3, $1,000 per month. But let's go one more level. And just for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through all the equation, but I'll give you the answers here. If you had one more generation of that, like we were just showing there, it would be 242 total builder cases, 363 drinker cases, right, because we're paid on volume, so that's what we're counting here. And so what that is 605 total cases times $5 per case, like we said earlier, is $3,025 per month. Now, we're claiming that this is a guaranteed income. We're just saying, as an example of how the compensation plan would roll out in this scenario, that's how the numbers would look, okay? And you could add any variable in there you want, but that's how those interesting numbers. And if you notice back to the 20K, the average income of a 20K in our company is approximately $3,000 a month. So now you can kind of get your head around how do you go from 0 to $3,000 a month. This ideally is partly how that works. It's not about you bringing in hundreds of people. It's, certainly bring people in as you find them, and there's a lot of proactive steps we're going to do together. But ultimately, the power of other people working on something that's for them, but also benefits you, and that's really where the power comes here. So let's go back to our example just to watch this. So Paul, Louise, and Rich come in, and obviously, they're starting their worksheet with them in the far left position, right? So, and it starts to expand like this, and then on and on it goes. Why does that often not happen that way? Okay. Well, a couple things. People left up to their own devices will typically not bring in people of greater capability than them, like we're using this example. So therefore, it gets watered down, and people are less committed and less coachable and less all those things as it gets deeper in the group, and then it kind of breaks down, and it becomes kind of like the tide, and people come in and out, and they don't really know what's going on, and no one's really there to coach them or train them, and because it's decreasing as it goes away from you instead of increasing in capacity. Okay, so this is where you win. Okay, this is where the numbers kick in, and you see that back to that average chart. You remember, Joe, when we showed it to you, we're talking 10,000 a month at Premier, and upwards from there into some pretty exciting numbers. Now, certainly it doesn't happen for everyone, and there's several factors why, but one of certainly the factors is there's a breakdown in this flow. Now, go back here for a minute. Somewhere between John, Tom, and then that Paul, Louise, and Rich level, things start to break down, and things don't necessarily follow the pattern anymore, and people are kind of doing whatever they do, and they're not quite sure why they do it, and because here's ultimately, Joe, after 5 years in this thing, in Zanggo, almost 6 years, this thing's not experimental anymore. This is working, right? And like we established earlier, there are certainly people making significant money, and not just a few of them. So there's patterns that we've discovered that are working for those people, and everyone's got their own flavor and style. But ultimately, the duplicatability factor in following some sort of a set pattern that can be copied and copied and copied and copied into the multiple generations is certainly one of the common elements of success amongst all those people. So that's the visual here, kind of gives us an idea of where it gets exciting is after you cross that line. But what you do on the left side of the line is, did you do the right things with the right people at the right time? Did you lead by example? See, Joe, ultimately what I'm trying to do right here for you is set the best example, not just talk about it with you, Joe, but actually do it in front of you so that you don't have to think so much about training as you have to do what was my experience. Because done correctly, we don't have to do a whole lot of training because you already experienced the training. You lived through it as a part of your process. So that's ideally as best we can. So let's go to an example here. Let's start with, I want to also to demonstrate to you the power of, as you expand beyond 3 into 4 or 5 or 6 key builders, how much more exciting the numbers can get. But I also wanted to, so just to kind of give you a flow of this, let's say you started with, you have 5 members, each ordering 2 cases, in this scenario, and then 5, so we duplicate into 5 more. And you can look over on the right-hand side, the royalty, per level starts to get a lot more interesting, a lot faster, obviously, as we're using 5 as an example. And then here, so that would be the left-hand side of that chart right before the dotted line. Now watch what happens when you cross over the dotted line into that magic of leverage side that we're referring to if you're talking about 5. Talking, the numbers get extremely exciting, obviously, in that example. Again, why doesn't everyone make $40,000 a month? Because they typically, a couple things, they don't put in the right people, they don't do the right things, and they focus on they do the wrong activities with the wrong people, and any combination of things somewhere in there is where we can break down that system and why these things tend not to happen as often as they certainly could. So another thing, Joe, I want you to do is I want you to settle it in your heart that there's, this thing is going somewhere. I want to help you, hit these levels and goals, because obviously if you win, I win, Joe, and if you don't win, I don't win either. So I'm all in with this with you. And this is something I'd like you to put on your refrigerator to help you, keep your focus on what's going on here, and as a part of all the things going on in your life, that this doesn't get forgotten, that we can keep this in a little bit of top-of-mind awareness. And I want you to promise to yourself something, Joe. Here's what it says on the bottom. I'm committed to work with my support team and coaches to achieve my goals and dreams I've set in my heart. I owe it to myself, my family, and my team to be here a year from now. I will reserve my place in the Zanggo story as I become a better, stronger person leading by example. Well, that's a promise to you, Joe. It's not necessarily a promise to me, but I certainly am interested in working for you and your goals as much as I'm interested in mine, because that's how I'll get my goals. So I do want to know, what you're looking for, and I do want to help you hit these levels, because that's how we do this thing. So just want to make sure you're aware that that's out there. So as we revert back here now, let's go back. Did we help Joe answer some of the questions? Does this work as a business? Could he do it? Right, we didn't paint some picture of something that's so insurmountable and that he couldn't do it, and it certainly is worth it financially if you look at those numbers. Because here's ultimately what we're looking for, right? Here's an example that is taught out there in network marketing, and I said it, and I didn't make it up. I got it from someone along the way. But in a deck of cards, there's 4 aces, right? There's, in that deck, there's also jacks and 2s and 4s and jokers, but the aces are the ones that are ready. The aces are the people that belong on that chart when you start filling in the names. And that's where it comes back to. This is about sorting, not convincing, because they're in there. They're ready. The timing is right, and they're going to do something, right? There's 20,000 people a week, according to the Direct Selling Association, joining home-based businesses, and they're not all joining yours. They're not all joining mine, but they're ready. They're aces, and they're out there, right? So it's a matter of sorting through and finding out who they are, and certainly the factors of our times that we live in are readying people for us before we even get there. Here's another perspective I think is important is, for your career perspective. You can legitimately, if you're serious and committed and coachable and do the things and working with a team, it is seriously possible that you can make a 4-year career out of this and make this happen, and then choose to do what you want. Ultimately, if you do this right, this is a walk away from it available business. Not many things in life can even hold that as a potential promise, much less do it in something, 4 or 5 years. But keep it in perspective. I know people that go to night classes and weekend classes for years and spend money and take time away from their family and time away from enjoying, life for the potential of a small raise working on their master's degree or something. And here, not only can you increase your lifestyle and income and learn a lot of things along the way, but you can put your life on a whole new course along the way in a course of 4 years. The other thing is someone must lead. Okay, not everyone is blessed to have a marvelous upline to work with, or you might not even like your upline. Doesn't matter. There's someone that's willing to help you if you're willing to ask. That I can guarantee you. We can help you identify someone who will be there for you. But ultimately, it still comes down to you, right? This is 100% team, but it's also 100% you. And you have to lead like a premier long before you are one. If you're a 5K right now, don't start thinking about don't think like a 5K. Don't even think a whole lot like a 20K. Put yourself at premier 100K, and therefore, if you put your heart, like Bob Schmidt would talk about, you put your heart over the bar, your body will follow. Put your heart at 100K. Put your commitment at 100K. Put your dedication and your, all those things at a premier 100K level when you're several levels below that, because that'll force you to live up to your own expectations of yourself, and you'll start doing the actions necessary. And guess what? Your team will notice, and they'll follow with you, because if they think you're going somewhere, they want to come with you, right? And lead by example. This ultimately is more caught than taught sometimes. The law of the lid is, basically, you should assume that you will be the lid to your organization. Your speed of success, your commitment level, your belief, your activities, your learning, your coachability, you're doing the things that everyone, example would be convention. Are you going to convention? If you don't go, your team's probably not going to go. And guess what? The one common denominator amongst every leader in this company is they would absolutely say, without question, convention is one of the serious keys to this business. Why would you not consider yourself that would apply to you, right? And if it doesn't apply to you, it's not going to apply to your team typically, and therefore your team will be, it'll be to their detriment, obviously, in many ways, more ways than one. Because people will duplicate you for better or for worse. That's just the good news and the bad news is the good will copy, but the bad gets copied too. So you want to follow the textbook as best you can and do everything in a way that you'd want someone else to copy. So a little something that you can chew on is, as you're going about this, when you're new or even as you go, is to maintain a level of certainty and build it as fast as you can. I call it the aroma of inevitability. When I started this business, I didn't have a lot of things working for me in my favor. The deck wasn't stacked in my favor, but one thing I did internally, and this is something, the reason I talk about it is this is available to anyone because it's something you can just choose to do. It's a choice in the matter, is work on settling it in your heart that it's inevitable that this is going to happen. And guess what? People will feel it, and they want to be a part of something where someone knows where they're going. And, if you're going there, and it helps you get posture. Again, when you take people through this kind of process, it helps them see we truly are looking for a few key people, because that's what makes that chart flow over to the right-hand side. Doesn't matter if they're not the right person. I often start my meetings like this now when I do them. I'll tell people, we're not trying to convince you to do this as a business. Ultimately, what we should really do tonight is I'd rather try to convince you to say no than to say yes. Because if this is for you, and you're sitting here, and by the end of the night, you get this, I couldn't convince you to not do this if I tried. Okay? So, and the best thing you could do to the person that invited you here tonight or invited you to look at this or however I phrase it is, if you are a no, please tell them no, because the last thing they want to hear is a yes when you really mean no. Okay? Now, what does it do? It establishes our posture, and it's the truth, right? Time is our most valuable thing we have going on. It's the most valuable commodity there is. And everyone's time broke in our culture, so we certainly don't want to have anyone jerking their chain in the tail wagging the dog regarding how we do this business. So please just tell me if the timing's not right. Hey, we can come back later. We can still go golfing. We'll still be friends. But if this isn't for you, I just want to know that right now. I just didn't want to count you out. I don't feel I could make the choice for you, so I want to let you know what we have. The sooner new people can get that posture, the more attractive this whole thing will be to them, because they won't be needy. They won't be begging people. People won't feel like they're being got in, right? You want to have people feel like they're being let in on something, not gotten in on something. No one wants to be gotten, but everyone wants to be let in, right? And it's think of it like a gold mine. Back to if you found a gold mine in your backyard and you're only allowed 4 shovels by law, and you have one of them, you got 3 shovels left, right? Think back to our example on the chart there. Who would you want digging with you? If they're concerned about getting dirt under the fingernails, or are we going to have to work at night, or, are we going to get dirty? I mean, what if it's hot and I get sweaty? You probably want to take the shovel back and go looking for someone new, right? And that's ultimately, just kind of a posture, a mental thing to be thinking about, because there's gold and then there are hills, right? Obviously, with what we have. So that's a wrap for this for now. I guess I say build it. This is a picture of our team. We had a team party a couple weeks back, and had a lot of fun. We actually had 99 people there. I don't think they're all in the picture, but build it and they will come. And what I mean by that is build it in your heart first, and they'll come, right? See this kind of thing for yourself early in the process, and help your people see it early in the process, and therefore, that has to go first. So build it in your heart, and the rest will follow. So thanks for coming, everyone, on the call today. Appreciate your time. Hopefully this was helpful to you. And sorry for going fast, but I had to get through a lot of things. And you can watch the archive if you need to review some of it, and the documents will be up there later. So till next time, I'll open up the lines and we can say goodbye.
Thank you so much.